I regret that people think that I was criticizing people that support Trump,
Hmm.
and um, that was never the intention. Um, it was uh, I regret kind of. I mean, I definitely someone said like now I can't follow you anymore, and I would kind of said f you to them,
Yeah.
but some of it's weird because I think authenticity is really uh, an important thing, and not only
Yeah.
as a comedian, but also with your children, right? And
Hmm.
so I was sitting at home with these kids, and and uh, and I do feel as though it's weird because you see it on both sides. You see people that come out against Trump, and people that come out against Kamala or Biden or whatever, or the Democrats. And it really, from my perspective, I'm like, that doesn't seem worth it. But there is something about uh, you know, an authenticity. It's weird because like for me, I don't regret it, but I also do acknowledge that there are true diehard Trump fans that, you know, probably enjoyed my comedy that because they feel so passionately will never forgive me. But there's also, I think there is something about, and I've known that I noticed this in doing stand up specials for so long, is you have to you're going to lose people. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you're going to attract people. You're going to be people that saw you in a different way that come to the party. There's going to be people that are like, uh, I don't have kids. I just, I think he's funny, but I don't get this. And or there's going to be people that are like that did like some of this stuff that are like, oh, you know what? I have teenagers, or I'm taking care of my grandkids that are teenagers. I should check this out. And so it's not like at least my career, it's not like amassing people, and it's not like a pop star where they come and then they leave. Does that make
Mm,
sense?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's
So
that sort of that there's that fear, that thing that people say, like, you know, was Taylor Swift gonna come out, against Trump? Will that lose her somehow this huge percentage of her fans or have this impact on her career? Um, you know, did you did you feel like it did have? So basically you're saying you didn't feel like it had some major impact on your career because it's always
I
kind of
mean, yeah,
fluctuating, or
I think that yeah, I mean I wouldn't say it was uh measurable,
hmm.
but there was definitely comments on social media,
Yeah,
and there's
yeah,
still,
there still are.
YouTube,
Yeah.
like and my son, who's so funny, is like I posted something and my 18-year-old son commented. He goes, I liked him until he went on his Trump rant. Like that was his comment because that was
Because he knows that's what you get.
and so but that's not like I would also say that I think we are in a different age. Like I remember Fred Armisen when I did Portlandia. He had just kind of gotten on Instagram and he goes, people are so nice on Instagram. And I was like, are they?
Really.
And they are, or they were compared to
Hmm.
now. So
Yeah.
now, look, I remember when I would do some of these CBS Sunday comedy commentaries. I did a commentary on the Tooth Fairy, and I don't know what my angle was on it, but I was like, the Tooth Fairy. It's like I mean, I think it was about the inflation associated with the Tooth
Right.
Fairy. It's
Yeah.
just be whining, and then there was people furious. This is before the pandemic. And then
Yeah.
it was so funny that people were upset that I did a commentary on like you guys were upset that I was talking about the tooth fairy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but we are much more in I think society wise because of I think once people taste the anonymity jab at someone, they can't resist it. Like
Mm.
I'm not saying people have fake
Well, and like
accounts.
access to celebrities, right? That's I think that's part of it. Is like I'm going to comment to this, and this guy's going to see it, and I know he's going to see it, and
Yeah,
I have
and
this
the reality is,
yeah,
what when you go through, you essentially just don't read comments after a while.
yeah, you have to just stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think you did get some blowback comments after the Al Smith dinner, right? Because you kind of
Oh
responded to
yeah.
them a little bit
Oh yeah.
on Instagram.
Yeah.
Um, that was something where you took this gig to host the Al Smith dinner for Catholic Charities, thinking
Yeah.
that it was going to be Trump and Harris both
Yeah.
there, and then of course she backs out. Um, did you worry after she backed out that it was going to be like you and Trump headlining this show, and it was going to kind of look bad? I mean, because that seems to be the criticism that you got, right? Is that
Yeah. Well,
you
that's
were supporting him in some way.
yeah, I was normalizing a fascist, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And there was uh you know, there some of it is like I love the history surrounding the Al Smith dinner and
Mm,
of the two candidates. And so I knew going into it that I was going to get criticism from both sides. Like I knew that like if I'm lightly roasting, I'm not like, uh I'm not a roast comedian, but like if
yeah.
I'm doing
You told
jokes,
some roasty jokes.
yeah, I mean, and I'm very, I mean, I love politics. I just don't talk about it. You know what I mean? And so I knew that if I did jokes about either side, that uh there was going to be some blowback, and but I also thought it was worth it. And again, it's all I mean, stand-up comedians, it's all self-assignment. So like again, you can sit there and you can take the safest, easiest path, but like I was talking, like Conan's hosting the Academy Awards, and he doesn't need to do that. He's doing it because he's like, I want to do it once. You know what I mean? It's kind of a conversation that comedians have. It's like,
Yeah.
I had turned down the White House Correspondents' Dinner a couple times, and I was like, you know what? I'll do the Al Smith thing. They're both there. And so to answer your question, when she said she wasn't going, I was like, well, there was still talk of her maybe changing her mind, and then there was
Mm,
talk of like maybe Biden's there, and it coincided with um me portraying Tim Walz at the same time. And so some of it was I kind of like the challenge of possibly doing this in a nimble way. So like I have religion jokes that are, it's religion, so it's like there's no new topics really, but like if you can do it in a way where you can make the believer and the agnostic laugh, then you've kind of mission accomplished. So I kind of wanted to go about doing the Al Smith dinner in a way where I knew there would be some kind of uh blowback, but I like the challenge of doing some of this material. And but there was definitely some, I mean, it was, I knew that it was going to feel like a Trump home game, and I knew that if Kamala was there were going to be people that were very protective, and it's not my thing. Like I don't do, when it's some comedian's birthday, I don't do the roast thing. I might
yeah.
watch them because I think they're very funny, but like it's just I don't
Is
do
that
that
is
stuff.
that why you didn't want to do the White House Correspondents' Dinner too? Because it's the roast thing, or more because it's political, or
Well, I feel like at that point, um, during those times, it was so some of that. Like I also didn't know that everyone was going to see the Al Smith dinner. I wanted everyone to,
yeah,
but the White House Correspondents' Dinner, that was very much, you know, Colbert and Seth Meyers, and people had done
yeah,
it where there was a standard
yeah,
of and also
political kind of, yeah,
the peer group audience is journalists,
yeah.
and
It's a
and
tough
also
crowd,
Michelle.
famously.
Yes, and Michelle, like like when Michelle,
Michelle Wolf.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean just like they essentially were criticized her because they didn't know who she was. Now they know who she is,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
if that had been Jeff Ross, it would have been like, oh, that's okay. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so, um, but the Al Smith thing, because it was both sides, I felt like because there is, I think most comedians, and you know, not to nerd out too much, but most comedians are contrarians, which is the same avenue that leads to conspiracy, right? So
Yeah.
like it's like if we're there with Trump, we could make fun of Trump. If we're there with the Democrats, and what I thought was interesting about this election is, and maybe because it was so important, and maybe because it was such a short election for Kamala, that people were like, "Don't criticize her," and my whole thing is like, "What that is." And I'm not somebody who's a roast guy, but I'm like, that's actually bad to have that
Yeah.
approach.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
hindsight, a lot of people
Yeah.
feel that way.
Yeah.
But
I was thinking about like if you were in the room, two rooms that you were in. If you were in the room at Al Smith dinner with Trump, I feel like you probably had a good feeling like he might be able to win the election. And if you were at SNL when Kamala visited, I feel
yeah,
like that was a room where you'd be like, "Wow, she's got it. This is happening for her." So you were in both of those
yes,
rooms. What did you take away from those sort of two experiences? Just thinking about how the election was going to play out.
yeah, that's you know, some of it is doing the opening, uh, the cold open with Kamala. Um, there was some of it is you know, Dana and I were on at different times, and then we're standing to the side, so I couldn't really. I could watch, but I couldn't get a sense. I was worried because Maya is so talented and has such a
That she was going to
commanding
like outshine
presence.
her. Yeah.
Yes, I was like, I didn't say
I
it to
don't think
anyone,
I
but I
don't
was
think that
like,
happened at all. I thought I don't
no,
know.
no,
To me,
it
Kamala came off really well.
yeah, but like that's what I was afraid of happening. And so I remember I watched it. I thought Kamala did great. Called my wife. I'm like, how'd it play? And my wife was like, she killed it. Kamala
Yeah.
killed it. And so I was like, all right, that's done.